So what does it really take to change the world? I mean, to fundamentally alter the course of history? Well, according to the source material we're looking at today, it all boils down to one thing: an absolutely unshakable conviction. And we're going to dive into what that looks like by exploring the life of the Apostle Paul. The source material gives him this really powerful title: an empire builder for God. I mean, think about that. That phrase just conjures up these images of strategy and conquest and massive expansion. But what does that even mean? How do you build an empire that's not made of land but of faith? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into.
All right, so a story this big, it doesn't just ease into things, right? No, this one starts with a bang, a sudden, almost violent break from everything that came before. We're talking about the one moment that flipped the switch, turning a persecutor into a true pioneer.
You have to remember, before this big transformation, Paul was known as Saul, and this guy was a hardcore religious zealot, totally by the book, a man of rigid law. He wasn't the kind of person you could just sway with a clever argument or a really good speech. You know, the source makes a great point. You can always argue with a sermon. You can always walk away from a preacher.
And that is the crucial point here. His change of heart, it wasn't intellectual. It was totally experiential. We're talking about a direct, personal, completely overwhelming encounter. He wasn't convinced by some new philosophy. He literally collided with what he believed to be life itself.
And this quote just nails it. It really captures the core idea. For Paul, after that moment, the debate was just over. Done. His experience was so real, so profound, that no argument on earth could shake him. And that was the source of his power, right? This unshakable foundation, built not on some theory, but on a real, personal, life-altering event.
So, okay, this incredible experience completely changed his direction. But what kept him going? What was the engine that drove this so-called empire builder for years and years? The source points to this really radical philosophy, something it calls the exchanged life.
So really, what was the secret? I mean, how does a man go from being the #1 threat to the early church to its greatest champion? And not just for a little while, but to stay that way through just unimaginable hardship? Well, the answer isn't just a change of mind. It's a complete reboot of his entire identity.
And what's so wild is just how total this concept is. Paul didn't just decide to follow a new set of rules or try to be a better person. No, he believed that his old self, Saul the Pharisee, had literally died, and in his place a new operating system was installed, a totally new principle that was now the source of all his life and all his power.
Yeah, this quote right here, it's the whole philosophy in a nutshell. It is not I, but Christ liveth in me. I mean, that's a declaration of a complete and total identity shift. It's not, hey, I'm trying to be better. It's, the person I used to be is gone, dead, and a new life is now living through this body. And if you can grasp that belief, well, that's the key to understanding everything, and I mean everything he did from that point on.
Now, a philosophy that radical, it can't just stay cooped up inside your head, right? It's got to come out. It has to show up in the real world. So, what did a life actually powered by this exchanged life look like on a day-to-day basis? Well, let me tell you, it was anything but ordinary.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It's pretty stark, isn't it? Most of us, we're kind of wired to seek comfort, avoid trouble, find some stability. Paul's path, it was the absolute polar opposite. He walked directly into trouble. The source puts it so well, it says he upset synagogues, had revivals, and riots, sometimes both at the same time. He wasn't just facing conflict, he was practically generating it for his cause.
And when you dig into the specifics, it's just staggering. This wasn't some full-time sponsored speaker with a staff. This guy was patching tents with his own hands just to pay the bills, all while trying to change the world. He would choose to fast, even when there was food right in front of him. He lived every single day with the threat of assassination hanging over his head. This wasn't a career choice for him. It was a total, all-in, incredibly costly consecration of his entire life.
And that brings us to this quote, "I die daily." And for him, that wasn't just a metaphor for having a tough day at the office. It was a literal, daily reality. Every day, he was consciously giving up his own comfort, his own safety, his own life for the sake of his mission. And the source just captures this paradox so perfectly with that phrase, magnificent misery. It's suffering, yes, but suffering that had this grand, world-altering purpose.
Okay, so we've seen the encounter that kicked everything off. We've looked at the philosophy that fueled him through all that hardship, but how did he get other people on board? How did he transfer that incredible conviction? Well, the source's final point gets to the heart of his legacy, and it turns out it wasn't so much about what he said, but about who he was.
Think about this. He doesn't say, hey, listen to my brilliant sermons and make sure you believe the correct doctrine. He says, those things which you have heard and seen in me, do. Watch my life, watch how I live, and do that. His instruction was basically for people to imitate his entire way of being. He was a walking, talking demonstration of this exchanged life.
And really, this is the final takeaway. It's the difference between a guidepost and a guide, right? A guidepost just points down the road and says, go that way. But a guide actually walks the path with you, showing you how it's done every step of the way. And the source argues that Paul's incredible world-changing influence came from the fact that he was a living, breathing demonstration of his own message. He didn't just talk about sacrifice, he was a living epistle, a living letter of it for everyone to read.
And so, that's what we're left with. This portrait of a man completely 100% sold out to a single, all-consuming purpose. A life of that magnificent misery we talked about. A life of incredible impact, born from a total, radical transformation. And looking at a life like that, it kind of forces you to ask a pretty tough question. What is the true price of that kind of conviction? What is the real cost of actually changing the world?